From beautiful blues music to vampiric action, Sinners has made its mark in pop culture as the most auspicious horror movie of last year. Directed by Ryan Coogler, Sinners is one of those films that blends a lot of different styles of filming together, all while blues music is mixed into the storytelling and character development. On one hand, it's a southern gothic crime drama, then at the latter end it turns into a straight up vampire horror action flick. And that is typically where most people tend to get lost while watching, including me. But I'm slowly starting to come to terms that most films and shows nowadays are getting far more out there in concept and overall storytelling. And you know what? I like that. It shows that people like filmmakers, writers, artists are trying harder and more creative and bold ideas are being formed. And this movie is proof that we as artists still have a lot in the tank for creative projects, for people to bond over and enjoy on their couches. And also to show that AI is trash.
Shut the fuck up!
Sorry, off topic.
Anyways,
there is a lot of culture and deep messages woven into this film's DNA that I know plenty of people have already covered before me. I'm just here to tell you why this film is worth your time, especially if you're a fan of things like history, musicals, folklore. So with that being said, let's get started.
The world of Sinners is grounded in a southern gothic setting, built around a gritty, blues-soaked region of Clarksdale, Mississippi, where poverty, crime, and cultural history all thrive. Most of the story takes place in small towns and rural backroads that feel very reminiscent of the Old South. What makes the world building stand out is how the supernatural elements are implemented into the storytelling. The movie mainly focuses on the Smokestack twins, appropriately named Smoke and Stack, who came back from Chicago to return to their old Delta town to open a new juke joint, allegedly, to bring all their plantation workers and buddies together for at least one night of freedom, filled with classic blues music, dancing, and singing. We also follow the story of Sammie Moore, aka Preacherboy, who is essentially one of the main links to the film's themes and ties to African American culture. And even though the story focuses on the Smokestack twins' situation, Sam is the main lead, who goes through a fully fleshed out character arc.
But now the real question. Why vampires? Vampires exist almost like a hidden underclass. The film treats them less like random creatures and more like a part of a secret ecosystem. I kind of want to compare that idea to the Underworld movies, where there's like a hidden underground society of vampires and werewolves waging war against each other. Only in this scenario, the main vampire Remick wants to steal Sammie's power of music to bring his ancestors back to the present day. And while there isn't an official statement saying the vampires are meant to symbolize any one thing or exactly how they fit in, but I do have a possible explanation. First, you gotta understand this. This film opens with an explanation that the supernatural already exists, and there are threats out there that threaten to take away the power that certain people hold over the power of music. The supernatural does exist, and it is a big threat to those with the gift of bringing people together from both past and future through music. And having antagonists like vampires fits both thematically and poetically into the film's setting. And I'll explain that a little bit more in Remick's section.
Elijah and Elias Moore, played by Michael B. Jordan, serve as the film's primary enforcers within the criminal underworld. They're portrayed as intimidating, nearly inseparable figures whose role is to maintain control, handle violent situations, and represent the harsh, survival-driven environment that surrounds the main characters. And then there's Sammie Moore, played by Miles Caton. Sammie is a young musician caught between faith, identity, and the violent world around him. Known as Preacherboy because of his religious upbringing, he represents innocence and internal conflict, often struggling to reconcile with his moral beliefs with a dangerous reality he's pulled into. Sammie represents the main musical side of things with his talent of playing the guitar and using his power to bring people from past and future to the present. And fun fact, Miles Caton won a Critics Award for Best Youngest Actor. Then there's the main side character, Annie, played by Wunmi Masaku. Annie functions as a stabilizing presence in the story. She is practical, emotionally grounded, and closely connected to the community and relationships that anchor the film's more human elements. Her role often centers on support, survival, and protecting those around her. Annie serves as the expert on all things supernatural thanks to her knowledge in hoodoo, not voodoo, hoodoo. Hoodoo is a traditional African American folk spiritual system and form of magic called root work or conjure that originated among enslaved people in the southern United States. It blends West African traditions with Native American herbalism and European folklore, focusing on practical solutions for personal empowerment, healing, protection, and influencing luck. Perfect for dealing with Irish vampires. Then there's my absolute favorite character in the cast, Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo. He is an older blues musician who embodies the cultural and historical roots of the setting. He acts as both a mentor-like figure and the symbol of the region's musical legacy, providing perspective shaped by experience, hardship, and resilience, who's not half bad at being a musician himself. And finally, we made it to Remick, played by Jack O'Connell. Remick is a centuries-old vampire from Ireland, and he serves as the film's primary antagonist in the latter half. He is a calculated and imposing figure whose actions drive the shift from a grounded crime drama into a supernatural conflict. Likely originating from the 17th century period of the British colonization, he is a traumatized survivor whose family and land was stolen and his people wiped out by the Christians, driving his desire to build a new, twisted community by turning others into him. He has wandered the world creating more vampires in hope of reviving the sense of belonging and community that he lost. Or at least that's what the Vampedia wiki says. On a real note though, I think I have to make it clear, Remick is nothing other than what I literally just described, where he's like this troubled man who lost his land and people and wants to find some sort of belonging in a way. At least that's how I interpret it. And I'm only saying this right now just because I have seen some people say how Remick is just another white guy who wants to take black culture for himself, when that's clearly not the case.
Y'all clean?
Sir. Well, no, we believe in equality.
He may be evil, but he ain't no racist. I think it's just another case of people like jumping to conclusions way too quickly without really looking into the meaning behind the characters in the movie. But like even this guy on Reddit makes a good point as to who Remick really is as a character, so I'd recommend reading that post if you're interested. But anyway, yeah, get your racist head out of the gutter. Save some for Twitter and the Instagram comments. And also Reddit.
He's not simply a monster, but a living embodiment of generational trauma, displacement, and a desperate hunger for belonging. And now on to the key points. The soundtrack alone can give you enough context as to what's happening in this film, which is by design, since blues music was a creation of the people, who worked long hours in the fields to pass the time and lift spirits. It developed as an emotional, vocal-based music to express hardship, like a coping mechanism. And there's a great moment in the film where Delta Slim uses that to cope with his past memories of hardship and losing a friend.
Characters like Sammie, Annie, and Delta Slim are all links to different aspects of black culture that this film beautifully shows off. Sammie's power of music comes from a combination of personal heritage, musical mythology, and the historical, spiritual, and cultural significance of the blues as a form of resistance. Annie uses hoodoo, not voodoo, which was often used by black Southerners as a practical, spiritual, and protective practice deeply rooted in African American tradition. The film, set in the 1930s South, explores it as a legitimate, often misunderstood form of magic and healing that provides power to characters facing existential threats, rather than just being a demonic force it's often portrayed as. Delta Slim, yet again, is the best character in the film by far. His realist charisma is just so relatable and entertaining to watch. Like I said before, Slim acts as a mentor figure for Preacherboy Sam, and really just acts as the soul of blues music as a concept.
Most horror films rely on fast cuts, sudden sound spikes, and jump scares. Sinners instead often uses longer shot durations, minimal cutting during these tense moments, and silence before action. These techniques are closer to filming like crime thrillers than traditional horror, which is why the scenes feel rather tense than just startling. You know what I mean? And the fact that they spend the first half of the film introducing its main characters make you feel more for them when shit starts hitting the fan. Aside from the twins and some fire effects, practical effects were used whenever possible. Instead of relying on purely CGI, many vampire effects and like cuts and stabs and what have you are all done practically via makeup. And lighting was also used to their advantage to emphasize the crazy, freaky transformations that go into becoming a vampire. And this is why the supernatural elements feel way more realistic than purely fantastical. And for the twins, physical stunt choreography and CGI were mixed together to allow them both to be active on screen and work off each other, especially when they're like, you know, touching each other and like fighting. That's when CGI really came in handy there. Hold up. You know what time it is. Yeah, right there, boy. Some high quality H2O. Today, hoodoo is often portrayed in a negative light, widely labeled as dark or black magic. But that to me is just the more fun magic. This misconception stems from the biased research of previous Christian academics, leading to a demonetization of African tradition. There is no reason to think hoodoo is evil. It is only practiced to bring people closer to their ancestors, especially African Americans. And this is a quote from this guy named Strickland. Hoodoo beliefs are purely naturalistic, and its rituals use naturally obtained supplies like herbs and minerals. It's pretty much just a glorified version of living like a psychic.
Director Ryan Coogler has stated that the film is a deeply personal project inspired by his late uncle, a Mississippi man who communicated through the blues, transforming it into a fantasized depiction of how black musicians channel the past and influence the future.
And now my closing thoughts. Excuse me. This movie came out of nowhere, and it threw me off guard with the tone shifts and creativity in the world building. And to be truthful, I didn't really like this movie at first because I couldn't understand what was happening. And I knew that would be a problem for a lot of other people, which is why I'm doing this. And lately, movies have just been getting way more bold in the creativity department, and I think that's a very good thing. Because that means future generations are going to learn off of our mistakes as filmmakers and continue to create works of art for you to watch on your couch while picking your belly button. In conclusion, the film is probably the best film of 2025, like I said before. It's a fun, like, crime drama horror movie. And it goes with the theme of modern day filmmaking that, like, there are way more out there ideas, there are way more challenges being brought up that filmmakers need to hurdle over. And this film is proof that, like, we can still have creative ideas and still have a fun time. There's some great ideas, great characters, tropes that have been done to death but are done in such a unique way that, like, it sets a milestone for best of the best. I'm gonna have to redo this later. But I will give a side note. I'll just say, if you want to watch a movie like this, like the first half of this movie, without all the musical and supernatural segments, I'd highly recommend watching Django Unchained, starring Jamie Foxx as the main lead. Django is pretty much what Ryan Coogler wanted Smokestack to be like. And plus it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it. How can you go wrong?
That's who the hell you calling Snowball, horse boy. I'll snatch your black ass off that nag down here in the mud so fast make your head.
But anyway, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out the first season 2 episode of Professional Normie. These are a lot of fun to do, and make sure to leave in the comments your own thoughts on this film. Did I do it justice? Also, I wasn't really gonna do this, but I do have a guitar. I'm not good at it. I'm still learning, but I'm not good at it, but I'm gonna try my best in honor of Remick, my favorite character. Second favorite. He's right behind Delta Slim. Except I didn't have an outfit like Delta. Let's see, you put the fingers right there. You gotta finger it like that. Well, I pick poor Robin clean. Pick poor Robin clean. Yeah, fuck it. I'm not gonna keep doing that. Either way, you guys have a good rest of your day and night, and I'll see you next time.